All right. Our attendee list has stopped growing for the moment. We'll probably get a few others trickling in, but we will get started. First of all, thank you all for coming. My name is Sam Riley. I'll do a little more introduction later, but we appreciate you all taking time out of your day to join us. If you were on our webinar back in January, time has flown. We spent a lot of time talking about AI then as well. We covered AI licensing. We covered some of the differences between Copilot and other services. We talked a lot about kind of the ins and outs that make all those licenses different, and then spent a little time demoing. On this call, we are going to shift that. We're going to spend just a very little time kind of recapping some of those other topics, but the majority of our time today is going to be spent just showing you how to use AI in your workday. So we're going to go through some examples in Outlook and Teams and Word and PowerPoint and Excel, as well as some others, basically just to hopefully help kickstart your brain into understanding what AI can do for you and be able to use it more effectively. So just to get introductions out of the way, we are Elixo. Elixo, for most of you, you're familiar with us. If you're not, we are an IT company. We've been around for over 17 years now. At this point, we specialize purely in business and other organizations and providing them with white glove service and the cybersecurity that needs to come along with that. If you ever want to talk more about that, we'd be happy to. Our email and phone number on the screen there. You can look us up. And for our presenters today, it's myself. I am Sam Riley, like I said. I am the principal and co-founder at Elixo. We also have Brad Hall, who will be doing some of the demos for us later on. He is our client services manager at Elixo, and he is also a Microsoft certified expert, which is not an easy cert to get. So if you ever want to ask him about that, he can answer all of your Microsoft questions, I think. But we'll let him comment on that later. So to kick things off, we're actually going to do a poll. And if you were on our last event, you will recognize this poll. All right, my poll is not working. By the way, we are doing this live, which is part of the fun of a good presentation. Here it is. All right. That should be coming up now. So if you could, grab your phone. You can scan that QR code. And if you could just answer this and let us know how you're using AI now. Like I said, this is actually the same poll we used last time. So I'm actually going to, in our recap email that you'll receive after this, compare the data and see if we see any differences in how people are using it versus what we saw back in January. Good, I already see answers coming in. All right. Excellent. Looks like the majority of you have voted now. I'll leave this up for just another minute here to get a couple more answers. But good, this is kind of what I expected. We use it occasionally for random tasks is how I think the majority of people I talk to outside of this, and as you've demonstrated here, are using AI now. It's kind of built into almost everything now, whether you're just Googling something or using ChatGPT on your phone. Most people just kind of use it for those random tasks. So hopefully what we can do is start elevating this number so that the we use it frequently category can get a few more people into it, and you can have a better idea of how to use it in your business after we're done here today. Excellent. So I'm going to leave that poll on the screen. So if you want to answer it, you can, but and I'm going to start talking about just kind of where we're at in AI and what's changed since January. So first of all, AI is rapidly changing. Even since January, we've seen Copilot itself, which is what we talk about mostly because that is the Microsoft way of doing things, and that's what we primarily support. We've seen that change. We see them adding features almost weekly. And so, for example, the amount you can do with a free Copilot license has increased since January. So you're able to do more and more, even if you don't have a paid Copilot license in Teams. And then with a paid Copilot license, not in Teams, it's in Office in general, With a paid license, you can do even more. And again, we're not going to spend a lot of time going into there, but bullet point list, they've added video summaries to Teams meetings. They've done more with how AI remembers you. So Copilot can actually remember all of your past conversations, and it's going to start answering your new questions better because it understands how you're working, what kind of company you are, how you're using it, and it's going to basically just get more and more intelligent with you over time. They also added co-work, where you can basically have it do a string of commands at once. Like not only can you make a meeting, but you can have it send the follow-ups for the meetings and do other things all in one swoop, not while you're using it, but just over time, because it is so baked in. So that's really cool. Again, this isn't the webinar for doing that. We'll do another webinar where we kind of dive into some of the deeper stuff down the road, but for now, that's where we're at. So one thing I did want to touch on quickly, and I will show you this here. Claude, if you're familiar with it, is, there was someone in chat there. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. Claude is a very popular AI platform that you've probably heard of. It is quickly moving up the ladder and hasn't caught ChatGPT yet, but it's working on it. If you're not familiar with Copilot, what Copilot is basically, up till recently, was a skin that Microsoft wrapped around ChatGPT. There are some limitations they put on as well, but by being wrapped in Microsoft's layer, it gives you both better data security and also lets you access all of your work documents and actually work within that without having to upload individual items one by one and also risk the security of that. So what AI has done, or what Copilot has done now, is they have actually rolled Claude into Copilot. So if you like Claude, but you weren't sure if you should be using it for business, one way you can do that is to use it in Copilot. So if you have a paid Copilot license, this only applies to Copilot paid licensing. This little auto right here, you can actually pick now, instead of using a GPT, which is ChatGPT from OpenAI, you can actually pick one of Claude's models here as well. Right now, Copilot will pick automatically for you, but it does give you the option to manually pick depending on what you're doing. When to choose which, that's something that you're going to get a lot of different opinions on. Some people just swear by one or the other. Typically, Claude is better at more complex tasks, building certain types of code. If you get into the more advanced stuff, if you're doing more critical document review, it can think more deeply and can often give better answers. But as I will say, it's often. It is not a you should always use one or the other. What I typically find is I will even run the same prompt through both engines if it's something I want that kind of data on, and I'll compare the results. I've seen GPT with Copilot do much better when it comes, especially to things that involve creating graphics. I'm going to do a demo later if we have time. It's kind of my last ones, like making a poster for an event. And I find that GPT does much better at that image generation and making good content that way. Claude is much more limited there. It's better with language and numbers than it is with graphics. So that's just a couple small examples. But again, you'll find which ones you like and be able to use that. All right. So we are going to now, like I promised, just dive straight into a demo. So let me get our first one pulled up here. And while I'm pulling that up, I did see one question: what is Gemini? And that is one of the other, if memory serves, Google's AI. And that is another one that's out there. There are so many now. There's ChatGPT and Copilot and Claude and Gemini and Grok, and can't even name them all. But Gemini is another popular one. It's from Google. Again, the limitation with that one is if your company's not in Google with its data, any AI engine you start dumping your company data into, you just have to be very cautious of what kind of data you're putting into it. Other disclaimer here. We are doing all of our demos today live. So if you expect a slick video with perfect prompts and results, that's not what you're going to get today, but we wanted to do it this way so that you can actually see how AI works, and you'll see the time it takes to generate certain things. You'll also, hopefully see some little glitch that we can walk through and show you how we might be able to do it better next time, or some of the challenges you might face. So first things first, we're just diving into Microsoft Word. So I've come up with a couple prompts that we're going to use for this. So if you're in Microsoft Word, you should be able to see that now. Yep. If you're in Microsoft Word, you have this Copilot button hanging out down here in the corner. That is an easy way to just open up the whole Copilot pane that pops out on the right. You also, though, when you open a new document, they like throwing this at you whenever they can. So you've got a nice box right here that you can just start out if you want to. So I'm going to go and open this up just so we can see what we're doing while we're going through this. And so, for example, my first prompt today is going to be HR needs a remote work policy update that reflects new AI usage guidelines. Create one for me. So this may or may not be something you would do in your workday, but at some point, basically all of us need to write some kind of a document. And this is just going to be an example of how simple the prompt can be to get started. So I'm going to run that now. And you'll watch on the right there, it's kind of fun. They'll actually start showing you what Copilot is doing behind the scenes. So it already did a little online research. It started laying out what needs to be in a policy like this. And then it's going to start building it right in front of us here. We have found this kind of thing is extremely helpful, especially creating this kind of policy. We have a couple different security frameworks and other things that Elixo adheres to. And we are all for creative people writing creative documents. But when it comes to things like this, where it's an actual just policy, you actually want it to use very standard industry guidelines. You don't want it to start straying or have the person writing it miss a bunch of things. So this is where ChatGPT or Copilot can really be beneficial in helping you make sure that things aren't missed, and just kind of generating it all for you. And then when it's done, the important thing is to actually review it, because it is not perfect. So you are still going to want to read anything that Copilot has written and make sure that it makes sense. Generally, it's going to, but you're also going to want to take it and align it with what your company actually wants in this document. So we're going to give it just another minute here. Again, we're live, so it is still drafting these policy sections as it considers what else it's going to put in here. So we'll give it another minute to finish that up. And you will find that performance kind of varies day to day. There are times it's under more load and you will see a longer wait. I've had this part go faster before. I've also seen it take this long or longer. So don't be surprised. In fact, what I'll do is I'll just throw up our second survey question while this prompt is running. That gives you guys something to look at besides me. All right, so our second poll should be coming up on the screen here. And I'll let you go ahead and answer that one. Great. All right, we've got a pretty good split on this one. So I'll take just a second to talk about AI and data security. So I touched on this just a minute ago, that one of the problems with AI is that if you use ChatGPT and copy in a bunch of your company's data to it, there's really no boundary around what AI can do with that information at that point. Most of it is not going to be a problem, but if you put anything into AI, it can use that to learn. And what learning means is it's going to put that into its model so that the next person who comes along can benefit from that. So you're going to want to be careful putting company data into anything that is not within the Copilot system. While Copilot is different, is because they actually use your existing permissions and data rules from your company's Microsoft tenant. So if you've got a team structure, a SharePoint structure, and you have that set up well, and then you properly deploy Copilot around it, it is going to use those same permissions and make sure that your company data is not being used to train the larger models, that users asking questions about the data are only seeing things that they already have permission to see. It is not going to go out and either share that data with anyone else or give anyone access to things they shouldn't. So if you're unsure, we would like to talk to you more about how you can become more confident in making sure your company's data is safe. So awesome. We will shift back to Word here in a second. All right. So while you guys were watching that poll, we actually had a good example of Copilot basically just kind of started spinning its wheels. It had taken longer than I know it should take, and it wasn't going to actually generate. So I hit the little stop button down here in the corner and then just told it try again. And that time it fired off right away. And now you can see it is already down into page 3 of making this document that we asked it to make. So we're going to let it finish now that you can see it actually writing. It won't take much longer. So that's an example of just something you might want to watch out for. If it seems to just completely stop, you have a stop button down here, and that's going to let you stop whatever tasks it's doing and either regenerate the same thing or give it a new prompt. All right, so it's done now. As you can see, we've got a pretty great document. We'll just kind of breeze through this quickly. So this is a company's remote work policy, and they added AI usage to it. So like all good policies, it's going to establish its purpose and the scope of what it's supposed to be doing. We're going to talk about, what the remote work expectations are. And then my favorite section, AI tools and use cases. So this is where I'm going to put a little plug in. If your company does not have an AI use policy yet, we'd highly encourage you to get one. We have a template that we'd be happy to share, or we can help you create one. And the reason for that is, like I mentioned, I'm explaining to you where it's safe to use your company's data in AI. Your staff do not all know that. So what you don't want is people, especially in departments that deal with sensitive data, just taking data and running with it and dropping a bunch of stuff into ChatGPT or wherever their favorite tool is, because that's where you run the risk of having your company data be put into hands that shouldn't be in. So that's largely this section here and what it's talking about and how to handle your company's data. So this is a good example of a policy. So what we're going to do now, though, is show you that it doesn't have to be done here. So first of all, it's on the right here showing you how it got here, what it did, what it included, et cetera. And then usually we'll even recommend a next step. And this is actually a perfect next step. It's to have HR and legal customize any placeholders that are in here, approve the workflow, check for any state specific things. And that's great. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm actually going to say, this is great. We're a small company, though. We don't need a 4-page document for this. I'm going to say, please make it more concise, roughly 50% as long. And we're going to let that run with it and see what it does here. So it's going to read through this entire document now. Try to simplify most of the sections. You can see it rewriting there. And again, it's not going to be quite as robust, but we're a company that maybe doesn't need quite this much detail. So it's going to do that for us now. You can see down here, we've already gone from 4 pages down to 3. We'll see if it makes it down to 2 pages or if it's still, if it can't quite get that far. There we go. So it didn't make it quite down to 2 pages, but now we're barely into the 3rd page and still have a document that covers all the same sections, but it has made it much more concise. So that's just a good example of how it can make what would have been a pretty long process to make a document this long with this much detail, and it did it all for us in, I think, under 4 minutes there. Once again, even after completing this, you can see that it has different automatic prompts if you're not sure what you want to do with it. Making it more employee friendly is one option it suggests. Making it more formal and legal is another option. Or even turning it into a 1-page policy memo. That's kind of making it extra concise, but it can do stuff like that as well. All right, and then what we're going to do is I'm actually going to save this. Or actually, first of all, I'm going to undo. Actually, we're going to leave that. We're going to save this, and we're actually going to go and make a PowerPoint. We're shifting over to PowerPoint now using this document. That's where this becomes really interesting, is what it can do when you are able to cross over from one system to another. All right, and while that loads up here, I forgot if I mentioned it at the beginning. Now I'm thinking I maybe didn't because I wasn't following my notes quite quickly enough. We do have a question and answer button built into this Teams webinar. I've already seen a couple good questions come up in just the chat, and you're welcome to do that. But if you want to add a Q&A question, we'll try to answer them on the fly. But then we'll also have some time at the end of today's presentation to work through even some like live questions. If you want us to do something we're able to show you in this demo, we can even walk through that with you. So feel free to use that Q&A function and add stuff there. All right. All right, so now we have PowerPoint here. And I'm going to find that document we just created. There we go. So once again, Microsoft apps all have this built in. We've got the little Copilot button right down here. Nope, it's not sharing yet. How about now? There we go. No, maybe. All right, now you should be able to see PowerPoint. We've got this little Copilot button down here. So what we're going to do is, like many things you're very comfortable with on a computer, is you can drop and drag. So I have saved that remote work policy that we just created in the previous Word demo. I'm going to just drop and drag it into here. So now it is actually considering that document as part of this demo. So what I'm going to do is now just start writing. And I'm going to say, please turn All right, please turn this document into a presentation to be shared with my staff. And we're going to let that run. So it is going to actually read that Word document that we just created a minute ago and then turn it into a PowerPoint presentation. You can actually, again, on the right there, see what it's doing. So it considered its own best approach for this. It read the document we gave it to determine what data was in there. And in this case, it's actually stopped. It is not just starting to create, it's actually stopped to ask us questions. So do we want highlights only, a concise overview, or full coverage? So I'm going to pick highlights only just to keep it a little shorter. And then it's going to ask another question here. Do we want to mainly focus on the new AI changes or about the compliance stuff? And you can see the other options here. So we're going to keep this AI focused today. And then the effective date be filled in or left as a placeholder. Oh, right, because in our document it had a placeholder for what the date should be, and we did not fill that. So I'm going to tell it to go ahead and use today's date. Another prompt that works really well in all of these things is if you give it what you want it to do, like I did at the start of this, you can actually prompt it to ask you questions. So this time it did it automatically because it identified pieces of data it didn't have yet. But if you want to, you can actually give it something like, again, make a PowerPoint out of this. Please ask me for any additional details you need to do this. And then it will actually take a little extra time to think and ask you those questions without having it have to be automatic. All right, and now we can pick colors. We're going to pick a bold tech gradient for the color. And now it's going to keep working through that. All right, almost done with its thinking process. And doing things like creating an entire PowerPoint can take a little longer than a simple prompt just because there's a lot more to do. It basically has to lay out the slides, it has to generate the graphics for every page, so it can take a moment here. Another thing you can do in a PowerPoint is, in addition to giving it like a document like this, I could have dropped our Elixo logo or any other branding information into this as well, or even told it which folder that's available in to go look at in our SharePoint because I have a paid Copilot license, and it would actually incorporate that into its design. So if you have a company brand document, that can also be very helpful. The other thing it will do is it will learn voice. That applies to all things as well. So what that means is if you have a very casual tone in your company, or you have a much more formal tone, like maybe the difference between if you're a self-help coach or a lawyer, those two people are going to talk in a different voice. You can actually, it'll one, learn your voice over time, but two, you can actually tell it what kind of voice you want. And you can just tell that to Copilot and it will start learning you. Like I mentioned earlier, it's actually gotten better at that too, figuring out how you like to speak and how you like to work, and it'll do better and better at that over time. And we should be done here soon, but again, live demo. We're gonna see how long this takes, and that's part of seeing how this works. All right, and then what we're going to do actually, just because that's taken a minute, I'm going to do a quick side demo. Stop sharing that one. So we're going now just back to the actual Copilot app here while we let PowerPoint work. So this is a real life one that I did recently. So we are sponsoring a few golf events this summer, and I wanted a poster that I could put up next to that event, and I wanted to see what Copilot could do with it. This is a good example of where if I tried this with Claude, it could do something, but it was much more graphically minimalist. It kind of came up with a general golf theme, but it wasn't quite the same. With Copilot, it was able to do something much more graphically interesting. And so I'm going to start that one running as well to so you guys can see that while we're waiting for these more intensive tasks to run. So again, it's already started telling us about what it's going to do. And sorry, the actual prompt was, I wanted to make a golf-themed 8.5 by 11 portrait layout poster for a golf event. Should have our logo, a QR code to register with a text block prompting people to ask about whether or not they want to learn more about IT. So it's already given me kind of a layout that it prompts here. It's picked a theme. It knows we're talking about golf. So it's going to make sure there's a golf flag stick available and a golf ball there. It's going to have the QR code and the call to action at the bottom, the color palette. It's even given me a very rudimentary layout here just so I can make sure that's what it looks like. And I'm going to get to the bottom here and it says, what do you want to do next? It's basically planned it out. And I'm going to say, generate as described. Or, you know what, I'll say something much more casual, like I said, go for it. And it's going to understand either of those. It can handle a very conversational speech. So we're going to let that generate here. And again, we know that not everyone is going to be able to use all of these in their work, but what we're trying to do here is to show you enough of how all of these apps can use AI that as you go about your workday, you can go, oh, I could use AI for that. And it's going to be able to help you out. So there you go. And so in, what was that, about 45 seconds, we have a poster. So I'm going to show you another example here. If you know Elixo, it did its best to create a theme kind of around what it knows about us, but that is not our logo. So I'm just going to go to my branding folder here and say, grab this one here. I'm going to just drop and drag an image here again and say, please use this Elixo logo. And so it's going to go in there and replace the Elixo logo it used with that one. Give it just a minute here. There you go. Oh, it halfway did it. I've had better luck with that before. This is where your mileage will vary when using AI. It did get our shield in there correctly. It got our eye with a little different color, but it did not actually keep our font over here. So that's an example of where you just have to check your work, see what it's doing. But still, that's a pretty good poster for just having given it that prompt. You'll even see it added this slogan. I did not give it that slogan to use. It came up with that. There's our new slogan for Elixo. Very cool. Going back to PowerPoint, this is actually going to be a great real world situation. Our generation actually failed. Copilot typically handles this pretty well, but what we ran into here is, once it loads, is if we scroll back up here, it had gotten 14 steps into this, and then it actually said the connection was lost while I was working on this request. Please try again. Now, I don't think my internet went down. It was pretty solid. So this is just Copilot having some trouble here after having gone through all these steps and doing it. So we can try this again. It will take a little time, and given the time in our presentation, we won't do that. It was very close to being done, so it's unfortunate. But again, we're doing a live demo today. That was our goal. So we will move on from that one. So at this time, Brad, if you're ready, Brad is going to show some Teams and Outlook functions before we finish over in Excel and time for our Q&A. And again, the Q&A is open, so if you want to ask any questions, let us know. But Brad, if you are ready, and I didn't tell you I was getting ready for you, but you are welcome to get started whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you, Sam. Give me 1 second here. So as one of my roles here at Elixo is project manager, so I want to focus on some things that I really utilize in my day-to-day role as project manager. One of them is Copilot in Microsoft Teams, and that is Teams meetings. So when I create an event, a calendar event, I will go in and invite my people and clients and staff to be part of it. I will go in and create a Teams meeting, and I will go under options since I have a paid license. And I go to those options, I go to recording and transcription, and I tell it to record and transcribe the meeting. Okay. So what Copilot does is it actually records the meeting, transcribes the meeting, and then when you're done with that meeting, you go back to your calendar here. You click on your calendar when you're done and click on View Recap. This will actually bring up a Teams window. And in that Teams window, it's going to look like this. It's very interactive. Okay. You can go back and you can play the recording. You can see who the speakers were at what time they were speaking, who was involved. You can click on topics, chapters. But the important thing is the AI recap over here on the side. Okay, it talks about there's the meeting notes. Okay, AI is smart enough to group all of the things you guys discussed into different areas and sections, and it also recognizes who is speaking by default. If I were to scroll down here in this live window, which again, I can't do a live demo on this one, but we would scroll down over here in this window and you see additional topics that were discussed. Who was discussing what was going on, timing, timestamps, where you can click on things and go back into play the video back if you wanted to based on the timestamps. Let's just say I remembered when somebody brought up something and I go look at this timeline here and they say this Matt, say he spoke only a few times during this time, but I wanted to just focus on the things that he said and go back and play just those things. Also, the most critical thing that I focus on after all this is done, and that is I click on this button up here in the top, and it basically is share to email. So what that does is it brings up and puts all that transcription and the recap. It recaps everything that we talked about. So it's not just transcription. Transcription is obviously one-to-one. Recording one-to-one. You can spend hours listening to recording and reading transcriptions, but this is a recap. That recap will take that 45-minute, hour-long meeting and put it into basically 5 minutes of text that you can read, right? So here is what it looks like when I say share to email. It'll bring up an email and it'll put all the information in that email. Okay, here's the meeting. It'll put the subject, put the meeting time, date, and of course, we'll always tag generated by AI. Be careful about accuracy. And then the meeting notes. Okay, what did we talk about? Who talked about it? Right? We talked about Azure Storage Access Data Migration Processes in this meeting. We talked about subsets of those things. And then we talked about manual migrations versus automations and APIs for a product that we were working on. Talked about the network and device transitions. Phone numbers and porting of fax lines and stuff. And then, of course, copier delivery configuration stuff, S drives, QuickBooks conversations during this project. And then, of course, the one thing that I like the most is the follow-up tasks. These are all the follow-up tasks that we need to, that came out of that meeting, and then who's responsible for them. It automatically knows who agreed to take on those responsibilities. Hey, you're doing that and I'm doing that, right? Keeps track of everything. Another thing that I love about all of this is it gets rid of all the small talk, the white noise, the chit chat. It eliminated the 5 minute conversation we had about the weather. Really, like who was doing what in lives there that day. It's great because, like, say what happens if one and a staff member missed this meeting. A critical person wasn't able to join at the last minute. They don't have to go play this hour-long recording or read the transcription. It's going to take an hour. They can go straight to the recap that I shared out and sent via email, right, to everybody involved. It automatically sends it to everybody, by the way, that's in the meeting. They can just read this. Literally, you can take the. I can read that in probably under 5 minutes, right? And then you say, "Oh well, what is my responsibility?" Well, nobody called you out. Maybe you did, maybe didn't. But this is like so yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of people using this. It's very helpful. Before, like, you can imagine just Teams meetings, taking hand notes, written notes, and then deciding who's doing what, and then emailing all that out and doing tasks. And as you can imagine, that can get cumbersome. So this has become very helpful, very efficient with me and my project management and my project meetings. Then another thing I want to discuss, give me one moment here, I'll switch up screens. On those same line of, same line of my task, or how AI is happening here is for project manager. Imagine, I mean, I spend a lot of time in email. Okay, I'll bring up an email. What AI can help do an email. So here's an email. I spend a lot of time sending out emails, drafting emails, first draft, second draft, third draft. I mean, AI has helped me cut down on all those drafts dramatically because I've gotten pretty much lazy because I don't even care about spelling anymore. I don't care about run-on sentences. I don't care about pronunciation. I mean, it has been very helpful because I just get everything off my brain onto paper right away, and I don't have to worry about, oh, am I drafting this correctly the first time, second time, third time? Just get it all out. Really, that's what I focus on now, and it helps dramatically cut down the amount of time I'm, rewording and drafting. So here I put just a bunch of thoughts on paper to Sam. Some items that we need to talk about. Obviously, there's lots of misspellings and run-on sentences, but I'm going to highlight all of this, and I'm going to say, Copilot, first and foremost, I want you just to rewrite all this for me. I know I got mistakes, lots of mistakes. So then it rewrites it for me. I can review it, but I can assure you, I don't think I've ever gotten to the point where I didn't like what it rewrote. I'm always just saying replace. But you can say insert below so you compare it. Can compare, what you wrote or what it's coming up with. So for me, I just immediately just start with replace and then I read it. Are we meeting next week? No run-on sentences here. Great, no issues with spelling, formatting, issues like that. So it did my second, third, fourth draft for me, essentially, the thing, like what I would have done in the past. There's also plenty of other options. In fact, I'm just gonna undo that. And I'm just gonna say, instead of just auto rewrite, you can get coaching, make it shorter, make it longer, change that tone. Like Sam mentioned, once you start communicating with AI, it's going to understand your tone and how you want things to happen. But you can also tell it to change the tone and say, hey, yes, that I like formal communication. You draft everything for me formally, but in this particular case, I want you to make it more casual. Now, obviously, it's going to make it casual, but it's also going to fix all the issues that it had, right? It doesn't change a whole lot because there's not a whole lot of things to make casual in that conversation, but you get the idea, right? What's going on with Dolph? Are we meeting about Microsoft partnership? What's going on with this vendor? Just regular communication. It'll help you, draft better emails for sure. Any other options here? Make it shorter. Sure. Like Sam showed you a not Word document. It's going to keep doing it. And in fact, you can do this all day long. Make it shorter. Okay, now rewrite the shorter one. You get the idea. You can just help rewrite repeatedly until you find one that's best, instead of wasting your time trying to deal with formatting and spelling and all of the above. So that's kind of Outlook, in Outlook, how Copilot helps me on the day-to-day, nonstop. The other thing that we all love is searching in Outlook, don't we? How many times have we gone and said, I need to find that email from so-and-so back from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago? And you'll search for an email from somebody, say Sam, and you'll find lots of emails, but it's like you're just not finding what you want. I can assure you, Copilot is going to be your best friend if you have to spend a lot of time finding emails, searching emails, recovering emails, stuff like that. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how I use the Copilot app for that. So if you have the paid version of Copilot and on your Windows machine, you can have a Copilot app. But you also have a Copilot 365 Business app, and that's the one you use when you have a premium license. Let me show you that right quick here. Copilot. So here's what Copilot looks like when you have the premium paid version. Sorry, let me focus it in. There we go. There it comes. So over here on the left is kind of a history of my recent chats. A lot of what I do in here is just, hey, instead of me going into Outlook and finding emails, I come into Copilot Chat now, the app. I'm always in work, by the way. I don't really go to web. I keep it internally, and that green shield is there. It means everything is, applies to data protection is good. So for this one, I want to recap emails between myself and Skagit Customs. Okay. And it's going to go dig through my emails, and it's going to provide me links to those emails. And help me identify or narrow it down. Okay, I search your email history, emails found, right? I can click on these emails. What email address was it? Who was I corresponding with? Here's the actual email itself. Yeah, this saves me a lot of time. Okay, and then you can refine that with additional prompts. Expand search. Look for emails with project or invoice keywords. But also giving you ideas to feed it for prompts. Here's one I did earlier because we've had an unusual amount of Microsoft tickets this year. I don't think we had but only one last year. I think we've had multiple this year. So I said recap, and yes, I spelled it wrong. I said recap email between me and Microsoft support over last year. Well, 62 relevant support options. Okay, summary of support cases. Okay, and it gave me links to all those emails. And if I wanted to say, oh yeah, this is the one I was looking for, let me go grab that email and read it in detail. As you can imagine, there's a lot of information in some of these emails, right? And then if I find the email, yeah, I can go back in and pick up that chain, help draft a response, go into it and summarize more details. SharePoint OAuth issues with Microsoft this year. And then it's like, okay, create a detailed timeline of support cases because it was one of the prompts it gave me. I said, yeah, I would like to see that. April of 2026 seems to be the biggest tickets we've had in years with Microsoft. And it comes down to just all kind of random things. And it helps me kind of get all this together. Imagine, like I said, searching every one of these emails and compiling it and putting it together. And then another prompt, and I said, okay, yeah, give me an executive summary. Right. And then, I said, hell yeah, I want to see all the Microsoft engineers involved on these cases. So it gave me all the Microsoft engineers were involved in what the case was and what the case number was. So that's, I just love this when it comes to help finding data. And it also will search SharePoint sites. I'm looking for a file that I saved from Skagit Customs or from Microsoft support. Here's an email. Here's a prompt. I was like, I need to find. There was a vendor that we worked with years ago. I thought it was called Printex. Copilot's going, I'm not finding anything with Printex. I go, oh, what are you finding? Oh, it's finding something with ThinPrint. I go, oh, okay, I remember that. Give me more information about that. Locate the ones from ThinPrint, right? And here's what it did. Yeah, you engaged with this person, and here was your interest, their interest, what happened. So, and I said, summarize key points. And then it reached out and did that. And it was like, oh, you had the demo. Would you like a demo review? Or would you like me to recap your demo that you had with them? Oh, well, yeah, of course. And then it gives me a link to the demo, the date and time we had it, and all the people involved, and then again more links to email. So this has been amazing for me when it comes to saving time by searching Outlook, and just finding data. I mean, I got a credit card charge from LinkedIn. I don't have a LinkedIn account. And I was like, hey, did I ever have a communication with LinkedIn? Did I ever have a cancellation email? And Copilots going, no, you have never ever had communication with LinkedIn. I go, I know I have it. So why do I have a credit card charge? You know what I mean? So just like it's just so powerful in that way. That helps me day to day. So yeah, that was just a few things that I wanted to cover. I know we're running out of time pretty quickly, aren't we, Sam?
Yep, it's amazing how quick you can go through your time with something like this. So fortunately, we have a quick demo for Excel left before we have just a little bit of time for Q&A. And the Excel one I actually pre-built, so we do not have to wait for that one to generate. This one I wanted to be a little more interactive within Excel instead of just being creation. So first of all, I'm going to hide myself just so you can see the Excel better. So first of all, I want to show you the prompts we already gave it here. So this is something I did before. So create a monthly revenue spreadsheet that a sales manager at a car dealership would use. Fully populate it with made up sample data so this can be used for demo purposes. So this is obviously created for our call today that you're on. So in a few minutes, it created all of this. So it created an entire tab here full of sample data. Everything from the salesperson, what kind of vehicle it was, the service contract, the discounts, the revenue, everything. And I gave it no more prompts. This paragraph you see here is all I gave it to create all of this you see here. And then it automatically made this summary tab because I told it I want it to be something a sales manager can look at. So one, I mean, it's that step alone is impressive. And it's got more over here. It's got margin calculators and stuff. So what I want to do now is actually start interacting with data. And we've only got a couple minutes. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. So I'm going to say, who was our best salesman? Should have put a question mark on that. I didn't. It's going to be fine. Just like Brad said, it's very good at handling typos. And there you go. So I'm not modifying anything out here. I'm just going to be asking questions over here about the data. So by total revenue, Maya was the best salesman in this data and had the highest profit. Then we can do the reverse, who was our lowest performing salesman. And again, it's going to come up with an answer for that. So this one, I'll kind of keep it short here, again, just in the interest of time. But I wanted to show this kind of interaction with it, where if you already have a sheet, you're not necessarily having to create something new. You already have a spreadsheet that maybe you guys have been using. Everyone's got that sheet in your company, right? That Excel sheet that you've been using forever. And it's got all this important data on. Every one of you knows what sheet I'm talking about. You all probably have one, or your company has a big shared doc. This is where, without editing it or creating something new, you can start using Copilot to help you get more interesting data out of it. So the last prompt I'm going to give it is basically looking at this data. Give me, or I'm going to say, highlight interesting points that we should consider. And it's basically not only going to answer a specific question, it's going to look at all this and it might say, did you notice that so-and-so didn't sell any cars that month? Or who knows what it'll give me? I don't know what it's going to give me. We haven't done this yet. So there you go. So here's a bunch. December was our strongest month. January was our weakest. That's something now we can go in our next meeting and try to figure out if there was a reason December is so much stronger. Probably end of the year Christmas sales or something. One we already knew. Maya led our revenue. But here's another one we didn't pick up before. It didn't show up in the best or worst. Carlos had the best average revenue per vehicle. Again, that's not necessarily obvious when you just look at the data, but it's going to pick that up for you. Who sold the most units? Again, Priya did that, even though it didn't have the most revenue or the highest average. she did the most actual units. So you get the idea here. You're able to get data out of here that you would not normally be able to just see by glancing at the data. And it can do that all for you very quickly. So in the interest of time, I'm going to stop with Excel there. If anyone does have any questions, or even, again, in the time we have left, we're happy to go a little over. If you have oh, I'd like to see you do this in Word or something in Excel, we're happy just to give that a try live. Again, we're doing it live today. So if you have any thoughts, feel free to throw those in chat. Otherwise, we'll kind of wrap up. And while you're thinking about that, if you go into the chat button in Teams, most of the questions got submitted in chat, not in the Q&A, but feel free just to kind of peruse through those. We've been answering them in line. So several people have asked some great questions about how permissions work or how polite you need to be with AI and several other things. So those are all in there. Feel free to read through those and get some additional answers. I don't have time to read through all of them. We will be making this recording available to anyone who was here, and we'll put it on YouTube eventually as well. If you want more information about some of those more detailed things about the Copilot models and how the billing works and licensing, our previous webinar is on YouTube already, and we'll put a link to that in the recap email we send out about this one. So you'll be able to go watch that one if you want more info, or just get in touch with us. We're happy to do completely free, just kind of talk to you about AI, whether you're an existing client or not. We just like educating people about this. We're happy to kind of explain where your company's at after looking at your licenses, what you may need to use AI better, and help you work on developing a strategy for actually implementing this kind of thing more in your company and just getting the value out of it. So I've not seen any questions come through unless I missed one. Let me just double check here. We're going to end with one last great question. Is it possible for any AI to be completely unbiased? And while I am not an AI scientist, my quick answer is going to be no. I think there's always going to be some little bit of bias. Obviously, the more subjective the topic, it's going to lean one way. The more objective you get, the less it's going to have that. But yeah. We've got some questions coming in. What are your suggestions about layering AI models? I assume this means basically being able to use one model and then either asking the same question of another model or even building on it. And the answer to that is it's just going to vary on every project you're doing. Some projects that can really benefit certain types of coding, certain types of kind of creative work. Other times, though, you're not going to get as much value, and you'll find that sticking with one model is going to be the best way to do that. So here's our last survey question. Should be on the screen now. And then we'll end right on the hour.
If you're a Microsoft shop, obviously we would push for, to have Copilot licensing because you can use the different models, ChatGPT, Claude. And you're keeping, if you have email and SharePoint, Teams, and all those applications, obviously that's where, it's going to it's where you utilize AI the most when it comes to those layers, without having to go third party directly, signing up for a subscription for something else, for all these other things, then putting your data over there. Whereas here, your data is secure by default.
And I haven't seen anyone answer our last poll yet. Is it, there it goes. Just had to refresh. There we go. So yeah, what factors are slowing your adoption of AI? Data security is still staying high. So once again, we would love to talk to you about that. The really short 15-second version that we've kind of circled around is with Copilot, it can be secure. It puts a protective fence around your data, and then it also uses the existing permissions you have. So if you have a SharePoint environment or a OneDrive file structure where your users have access to what they should and shouldn't, and don't have what they shouldn't, Copilot is going to use those same permissions. So it's not going to let someone go access the HR folder they shouldn't have access to. Again, that requires your foundation be in place first, but it is possible. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. It's been a pleasure presenting today. We intend to do more of these. There will be a survey going out as well, just asking you what you want to see more of, whether it be more AI or other topics like cybersecurity. And we'd love to get your feedback on what other webinars we should plan in the future. Our goal is to do around one of these a quarter. That will vary a little bit based on the topics we're covering and just availability, but we want to keep this educational content coming. So from all of us at Elixo, thank you for coming. Thank you, Brad, for helping. And Gary was also in the background answering some of your questions in the chat. So thanks to him as well. And look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks.